Hello, everybody. So glad to be here with you. I have my fresh cup of decaf in the afternoon because I just love a warm cup of coffee long after I should be drinking caffeine. So I really appreciate decaf because I actually like the taste of coffee. Anyway, that is not our topic today. Today, we are going to be talking about focus. And in fact, maybe in some ways, my cup of coffee is linked to this topic because I use having a warm cup of coffee as a trigger to remind me to either focus or relax. I do it for both, but in different locations. So drinking coffee at my desk means focus time, and drinking coffee while looking at nothing on the couch means relax time. So I use that as a trigger. Okay, let's dive in a little more to this concept of focus. So here's the thing. Focus, people I think like to say like, oh, I'm good at focusing, or I'm not good at focusing, or like I'm focused or I'm not focused. And I like to think of focus as a practice, right? Focus isn't, maybe we can get into a flow state, but it's not like we're focused or we're not focused. To be focused to me means to return our attention again and again to whatever it is we want to be putting attention on. And not to judge ourselves for losing focus, for putting our attention on something else, but to kindly invite ourselves back to putting our attention on whatever it is we want to get done. Although with a caveat, I'll say sometimes, we have things that distract us, right? Our phones, social media, there's all this stuff. But sometimes when we are not giving our attention, if we are not focusing our attention on the thing we want to, it might be that there's a conflicting priority that actually needs our attention instead. So I'm always listening for that and listening to myself and my body and my brain when it's time to focus, and providing supports for myself to stay focused, right? Because focus is something that drifts in and out. Just like my camera here changes focus as I move forward and back and around. And this camera is actually a little slow to refocus, so you can see it. I had an old camera that was very fast and you almost didn't notice it refocusing. But it is constantly watching and adapting to stay focused. So focus isn't like an on or off. It's like a drift spectrum-y thing. And that is normal. So the real skill is not to stay focused, but to learn to recognize when you've drifted and to have a tool to refocus. So let's go back to my cup of coffee for a second. Yes, this stands as a visual and especially tactile, right? This is a warm cup of coffee, a tactile reminder to focus, but it's also a tool I can use when I've lost focus, when I've drifted. I can say, use this sip as a trigger to refocus. And it's an activity, it's body, it's temperature changing. Ice cold water can also really help as well. And so it is a tool I can use to refocus. Now, it's not just focus as like me personally or you personally. It's important to get your team focused and aligned, right? So aligned. So much about focus is related to alignment, because when we're doing activities that are really in alignment with what we want to be doing, should be doing, I don't love should, right? But with the things that are meaningful for us to do, it's a lot easier to get into that flow state, to be focusing on them. We push through them even when they're uncomfortable. Discomfort is not always hard if it's something we're doing that's in alignment. So the more we're in alignment, the more we can stay focused or refocused, because we're not swayed by discomfort or challenge. Those are part of actually the joy, right? Something can be both uncomfortable and joyful at the same time. For example, as you may know, I love sailing and especially racing sailboats. And I love just about every single second of it. Are there times when it's physically very hard? Yes. Are there times when it's quite uncomfortable? Absolutely, because you're in an awkward position, because you're having to move very fast, because there's a level of I'll call them stressful situations. You may not respond as stressed, but challenging, dynamic situations. There are all sorts of things that happen, but they are all also joyful, and it is easy to maintain focus because it is such a positive experience for me, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable. And so the focus stays longer. So back to what I was saying about teams. Teams also need rituals and systems that help them refocus regularly. And this is one of the things I love using meetings for. I love meetings, but not having lots and lots of meetings, but having meetings that are meaningful and helpful to teams. So, meetings can be used as a way to focus or refocus your team, to get everybody aligned on what everyone's working towards together and what each person is going to do individually to be a part of achieving the result that everybody wants to achieve. So having routine meetings, like there was somebody who called it a meeting pulse, right? So like this rhythm. I like to think of the metronome, right? So whether it's a weekly meeting or a bi-weekly meeting or a twice a week meeting, we kind of get to see this rhythm of refocusing as a team, and being able to get feedback from each other. Because often, to stay focused as a team, we need to be communicating and collaborating about what we're doing and refining what we're doing. So in many ways, that team meeting, and in the impact method, which I teach my clients at the leadership level, at the project level, we're typically meeting every 2 weeks, and we are refocusing. What is the plan that we're doing? What is the next phase of the plan? What changes do we need to make to the plan? And that meeting is like the cup of coffee for me right now. It is the recurring thing. It is present. It shows up every 2 weeks. We do it whether we think we need it or not. And it is there to help us as a team regulate. Okay, staying focused. Finally, letting go of perfection actually helps us focus better. So this might sound like it doesn't make sense for a moment, but sometimes we get hung up on making something perfect, and we get focused on the perfection and not the result of what we're trying to accomplish. And when we get hung up on that kind of focus can be harmful, uncomfortable, isolating. So it's important when we think about focus that we're thinking about, what are we focusing on? And especially in business, I want you to be focusing on what you're trying to achieve. What does done look like? What is the result that you're going for? What is the outcome that you're trying to achieve with your focus? Okay. Final tip for you on focus is, just like meditation, it is a practice. Practicing focus builds resilience and, of course, with it, productivity towards achieving the things that you want. So take a moment to get clear on what you're trying to achieve with your focus, and then practice recognizing when you've lost your focus and re-engaging in what you're trying to focus on. Until next time, all the best.